Hey, what is up? So glad you could join us again for another edition of the Draft Show. He's Scott Bischoff. I'm Sean Baligian. And you know what? If you're sitting at home and you've been listening or watching these, as it were, number one, we thank you. But I'm going to tell you right now, we're going to be talking about the quarterback a lot during these. And if you're somebody you've been with us for the past few that we've done, maybe you're sitting back going, well, wait a second, didn't we talk quarterback just a few weeks ago? Scott, it's very important to talk to quarterback for one very, very good reason. Other than the obvious, it's the most important position in the National Football League. The Detroit Lions are in need of a franchise quarterback. Period. End of story. Jared Goff, conversation aside, you're going to be hearing about quarterback maybe even past this draft. Now, what remains to be seen is if the Lions stay at 7, if they, here it comes, take a chance on Lance. We don't know what Mr. Holmes likes, but
he likes Jared Goff.
Scott, what we do know is that they're going to be in the market for a quarterback sooner rather than later.
Yeah. Yes, and Jared Goff can be a part of being, in that market. They already went out and shopped.
So
they did.
Instead of talking about some of the prospects that the Lions might be thinking about at 7 or beyond, we've already done that. Full disclosure, we're probably going to do it again a month and a half from now.
A couple times
Yeah,
more.
that's my guess. You know what? I think Scott came up with a brilliant idea today because he's kind of a brilliant guy. Scott, what are some of the things, what are the attributes that scouts are looking at with these guys?
So it's changed a touch. You're going to hear out of the structure of a play a lot. Like when things,
is that a new buzz term?
Could be. It's a new scouting
Out
term.
of the structure of the play.
So there's the inside the structure of a play, which is like, all right, everybody does their job, and you're protected, and your first read is here, and then your second read and your third read, and throw the ball to whoever's open, and that's sort of inside the structure of a play.
All right.
The outside the structure stuff is what happens when things break down. And newsflash, things are going to break down.
Yes.
So when things break down, does a player bail from the pocket? And what is that player's then desire as things are breaking down around him? Are his eyes down the field? And is he attacking down the field wanting to throw the ball still, which is your best case scenario? Or is he – and that's a little bit like what Mahomes does.
Okay.
And that's why I think we're seeing some of this injected into the game. Then there's the mentality, and this is more Lamar Jackson-like, when it breaks down, it's run, and because he's so freaky athletic and fast and can outrun angles, it's effective. But the blend of that is a player who's maybe not quick enough or fast enough to outrun players, but also heady enough and maybe smart enough as a football player to know, yeah, I'm breaking the pocket and I'm rolling to my right, but I'm still scanning the field, multiple levels, multiple areas of the field to find an opening to target. Mm-hmm. And so you're seeing teams really covet players who, when things do break down around them, they're still able to make plays. Mm-hmm. That kind of goes into the whole playmaking thing. That's why Zach Wilson has risen the way he has, is because he's just a very natural playmaker. He's able to sort of pull the rabbit out of the hat, so to speak, outside the structure of whatever it is that they're trying to do. So there's that whole mentality going into quarterback evaluation, and sometimes in there is, there's the normal stuff. What's his release? What's his footwork like? What's his mechanics? What's his arm strength like? What kind of a thrower is he? Is he anticipatory? Can he layer in between coverage? Can he throw a ball over a linebacker in front of a safety? Can he rip a throw when he needs to, where it needs to be a fastball, like back shoulder fade type stuff? Some of there's a little bit of a break happening for quarterbacks. And picture Matt Stafford when I say this, the anticipatory thrower who's willing to throw a ball when a receiver is covered because he knows the receiver, when the ball arrives, is going to be uncovered. That's a great thing because it's a skill that a lot of quarterbacks don't possess. the ability to make a throw into a place where you're going, no, oh, what a great throw.
Yeah.
Right? Like
Yeah.
the whole tight window turkey hole thing. The opposite of that is a quarterback who needs to see it open and then throw it. Those are quarterbacks who give you a little pause, like, this is Jared Goff now. Jared Goff is I need to see it before. I need to see it open before I'm willing to make a throw, and then kind of coming out of that is you need to have a huge arm to make those throws at the NFL level. You just do. Now Stafford's a bit of an anomaly because he's anticipatory. He can do all those things, but when he needs to rip one in there, he's got the arm to do that. He's got everything. Goff does not. Goff doesn't have a huge arm. He's got plenty of arm. Most players coming into the NFL have enough arm strength that they're functional at the NFL level. It's just how do they make throws when they're letting go of the ball? Where's the coverage? Where's the defender? Where's the receiver? That kind of stuff. So in your brain, do you see the picture develop
Yes.
of Stafford throwing, tight window throws where you just thinking, how did he see that? Because he trusts his receivers to make plays. We can have a Kenny Galladay conversation around this whole conversation, but it's complicated. And then you can see why a player like Goff worked in L.A. with the receivers they had because they get open very quickly, right? Like Robert Woods gets open quick. Cooper Kupp is a great route runner. When he had Brandon Cooks, that took a little more time, but it wasn't a great fit for what he was as a player. So this is some of the stuff, and then along with anticipation is touch. What can a player throw fastballs? Can he throw it with touch where there's more air underneath the ball? I always think about it like this: like you're running down the field, pushing a shopping cart with you as fast as you can go, and a quarterback has to throw the ball high in the air and land it in the shopping cart,
Yeah.
like a bucket throw,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That's touch. So does a quarterback play with touch and anticipation? Does he do that accurately? Those kind of things. Playmaking, confidence. It's one of the things that I think where you can see some of that with some of the players in this class. The confidence that some of them play with, you can feel it. It just drips. Zach Wilson, right? But
We
Wilson's,
both like Zach Wilson.
yeah, he's got there are some flaws there. There are some he'll predetermine where he's going with the ball before the ball is snapped, regardless of what the coverage is doing. There's a specific play. He throws a slant pass, and it's like a 2-on-2 combination route where the receiver on the outside is running a slant, and the running back is running behind the line of scrimmage. And what he's trying to do is draw the safety to the line of scrimmage and open up the field for the slant route. That's what they're trying to do. Safety's smart on this play and decides, I'm not really going to pay attention to the running back because he's not running a wheel route. He's running laterally to the line of scrimmage. So I'm going to squat on the slant route. And Wilson still throws it. And it's like the receiver probably gets up from that and goes back to the huddle and asks him, what did I do to you?
What the heck's wrong with you,
because
man?
there's a lot of that on film where it's like receivers are going to be very unhappy with some of the decisions he makes.
Sure.
Suicide passes kind of thing where it's like, come on, you just can't predetermine and make that throw without scanning the field. So, it's not like he's not like the perfect player, but when you look at where the modern day NFL is going, he fits a lot of things that you really want. Trevor Lawrence does too. He's a great prospect. So we just wanted to get into some of the things that you are looking for. Now there's a lot more behind that. Footwork. We could talk for a long time about footwork and about 3-step, 5-step. The mechanics of being under center as opposed to being in shotgun.
You just said the word mechanics. How do you define mechanics? You hear it all the time, right?
Yeah.
What is mechanics?
Everything that you're doing with your body to throw a football. Everything.
Ask a silly question.
Well, it is. It's literally from your feet to your arm. It's your feet are attached to the ground. It's the only real power that you have. Some players are really good there, and some players need a little help there. For Zach Wilson doesn't have great footwork, but he doesn't need to have great footwork because his release is ridiculous, and he still is accurate without having great footwork. That's why I'm so intrigued by him, is because there's some stuff that you can clean up, and then you think, he's really good already. He's young. He can get better.
Yeah.
Technically, he can improve.
Sure.
We need to talk about Trey Lance for what he is as a player. we could talk Justin Fields, and then there's the whole reasoning for this is Mac Jones. That's the entire reason for this, is because there's going to be a desire to get to. I think Mel Kiper had Mac Jones going 8 overall to Carolina in his mock draft today, and that might sound nuts, but he was pretty productive at Alabama. It's just he is not mobile like these guys are.
There is one undeniable truth, okay? And quarterbacks are going to go earlier than most people think.
In this class, in this year, I think, yes.
Especially? Well, here, and this is what I mean, because Scott, I don't want to say a month ago, maybe a couple months ago, I remember doing the show, and I even shared this with you. People were like, there aren't going to be 4 quarterbacks going in the top 8. And I said, yes, there is. Yes, there is. Yeah. And my buddy was like, really? And I said, yeah, there is. There will be 4 quarterbacks that go.
So
count on it.
This entire draft will be filled with uncertainty. Levels of uncertainty never seen before for the NFL.
Sure.
The modern NFL.
Sure.
So if you make the natural assumption that all these picks carry risk, and then assume that there's just a lot more risk this year, taking a risk on a quarterback, which is always a proposition of unknown, makes more sense because you're bringing on a ton of risk already. And it's not that you can't scan around the league and find teams that need quarterbacks, because a lot of them do. A lot of them do. And some of the
carousel this offseason, for goodness sake.
And some of the teams that are picking in the top 8 either need quarterback or are in a position to move out for teams who will come up. See Miami. See potentially Atlanta. Philly might be in that market if they buy into Jalen Hurts. I don't know that they do, but we'll see.
I like Jalen Hurts. I think I've mentioned that to you about
you have
522 times.
Yeah. I don't know if it's been that many, but it's pretty close, though.
516.
Okay.
516.
That's probably accurate.
No, and it's interesting, Scott, because that's like, this is the way it's going to be this year. Get yourself ready. And normally I would say, boy, that might be too high for Mac Jones. And everybody sees the picture where he had a dad bod. He did. He had a dad bod. Let's be brutally honest. We might even look better than Mac Jones, truth be told. But
you probably
Mac Jones. But no, like, all jokes aside, dude can play. He's at Alabama.
Yeah.
There's a cachet that comes along with that, and don't be surprised when he goes higher than maybe you think.
He could. It's so in the Mac Jones conversation is the mobility conversation. It is all about the in structure versus the when stuff breaks down conversation. He's great in the structure of their offense. It's undeniable. He is. He threw a ton of touchdowns, didn't throw many picks. He's got plenty of arm strength. He can do all the things that you want him to do. It's just he's not real mobile. He is not one of those. He's not going to, offensive line's going to have breakdowns, and when the breakdowns happen, he's not one of those guys who's going to escape the pocket and make a throw, from a strange arm angle down the field. That's just not his game. But if you prepare for that, and if you're surround him with a good offensive line, like, think about him in New Orleans, what he would look like, right? Like, there's not going to be a lot of pressure. He's got weapons that get open quickly. He would be functional there. But if you're telling me he's going to a place where he's going to be pressured, that's a whole different story. But it is, Tom Brady. Do you think Tom Brady's a mobile quarterback?
No.
He is not mobile, like, from a sense of challenging anybody athletically. But the stuff that he does inside the pocket, the little movements, preparing his feet to make a throw, sidestepping pressure, buying time, it's kind of the same stuff.
I've always loved that about Roethlisberger. I've always loved
extending plays,
just that little slide step that he has.
Some people are really natural at doing those kind of things. So you don't have to be Lamar Jackson as an athlete to be considered mobile. There's different kinds of mobility. It's not all equal. Mm-hmm. So you could, like, Mac Jones could come to the NFL and learn subtle manipulations in the pocket to extend plays and buy time and be a very functional quarterback. And I think if you're looking at a team buying into him, they're buying the idea that he does do those things, that he can do those things. They're not caring so much that he's not a wizard, with his wand out, avoiding pressure.
Yeah.
some teams are not going to care so much about that kind of stuff. That gets us to the whole Goff conversation of what is to be expected out of Jared Goff as a Detroit Lions player. And I would tell you that the Kenny Golladay stuff is tied to this. This is why it's complicated. Kenny Galladay's he's a specific type of receiver. Matt Stafford made him. If we're just being brutally honest,
I watched it. I did. I know. I told you that. I watched it.
Yes, it does, and it doesn't even take away from what Kenny Golladay, what he is as a receiver. He is a fantastic wide receiver at the NFL level, but he needs a certain type of quarterback to give him opportunities down the field in the 50-50 ball market. Mm-hmm. He just does, and Goff is not necessarily that guy. Goff's going to see him covered and he's not going to give him a chance because he's covered. Where Stafford was totally willing to put the ball out there, go get it. Goff's not going to do that kind of stuff. Goff needs more bootleg action type of stuff to get out of the pocket. He needs to throw in rhythm on the move. He can do those kind of things, but you're not looking at down the field contested catch stuff. So some of this is, if they tag Kenny Golladay, does he fit? Does he mesh well talent-wise in the strengths of his game with what current quarterback does? And I don't think there's a great fit there, but there's a conversation to be had about what Goff can do and how he can be functional as a player.
Sure.
And that, we've talked about mobility. We've talked about structure of plays and all that stuff. The reason why Goff needed Sean McVay is because he needs a scheme. He's a scheme quarterback. Matt Stafford wasn't really important for him to have a specific scheme because he can do everything. So you're looking at designing a specific scheme for your quarterback, and in that scheme you need players who can get open quickly and run real precise routes where Goff knows exactly where they're going to be. That's why I think Cephas is intriguing here. It's not a deep threat, but using his body, it's going to generate first downs for you. So it kind of goes into the if they're sold on Goff and if they really want Goff to work, you should be taking receiver early and maybe hitting it multiple times in this draft. But we need to know, what kind of receivers are we talking about? You need guys who can open up quickly. So just think Robert Woods. You need super precise route runners like Cooper Kupp. It's easy to point to their past success and look at what they have, but he does need those kind of players to give him some sense of security that, okay, he's open.
Yeah.
So, that's kind of like just Lions fans need to get comfortable with an offense that's going to be very different and maybe not so vertically, maybe not so willing to take like big vertical shots like Stafford was going to do. Right. It's more, let's move the chains, timing, rhythm, tempo kind of stuff. And you can see how running back play comes into that. Right? You're going to see, I think you're going to see an offense that wants to run the ball and set up some play action, not a ton of play action. But Goff, outside pocket, rollouts, design boot rollouts, where you cut the field in half for him and give him design things to look at. And I think he can function. It's just a matter of, getting the pieces around him to make that fit. Just you're not looking at a player who's got a completed, I was going to say, people in Detroit have been spoiled by Stafford for a long time. And we all have seen the ridiculous throws that he's made. And I think we're looking at those days are over. Like the whole contested catch, tight window throws. We're looking at creating an offense that is more system and scheme driven.
Kind of what Lombardi tried to fit Stafford into, huh?
Yeah, but Stafford, it
wasn't a fit.
Not a fit at all.
Not a fit at all.
Not a fit at all. And some of that's
you
pressure.
know my feelings on that.
I do. And some of that
Shout out to my boy Joik Bell.
Some of that was the pressure that they allowed Stafford to see. Like they were okay with that. He was not. That's one thing. That's one place where Stafford has never been great is under pressure.
Sure.
He never has. And most quarterbacks aren't, right? But with him, the pressure that they would allow, just think of letting Everson Griffin come off the corner unblocked and having your quarterback, 5-step, 7-step drop into the face of that to make a throw. It just, so
Vikings teed off. It was Griffin. It was Allen. They teed off.
Then they would do
on him.
the double A gap linebacker thing. And it just confusion and chaos. But, I mean, Goff is a functional player. Goff can work. There's a lot of things he can do. Just don't expect it to look like what Stafford was able to do.
Sure.
And in some ways, that's okay because we're going to – I mean, I think you're going to know pretty quick whether Goff is going to work here or not. To me, you've got to hit the quarterback position multiple times to figure out what you have going forward. I think it makes sense to take one in this class early because if Goff doesn't work, you've got one that you can try. I mean, it may take multiple shots at this to get it right, and nobody wants to hear that. But you did get some capital for Stafford, and you might have to use all of that to fix that position.
Honestly, though, Scott, for the first time, I mean, there are always going to be some stragglers, I mean, I've already been besieged with people. I think the culture change alone is good enough to bring us to 10 wins. There are always going to be fans like that. God bless you. I'm not trying to be condescending. For the first time, I really think, not only franchise-wise, but a lot of fans are kind of like, okay, I'm cool. Let's do it right.
Yeah.
This might be 3 years from now. And when I say 3 years from now, where they're just respectable again. Not
sure.
Ready to inflict incredible damage, okay? But just respectable again.
But what does the next 2 years look like? It might
Do you want my truth?
I want you to be
awful. Amongst the worst teams in the league.
It should be. Could be, should be.
Yep.
And if you are truly rebuilding, kind of needs to be.
We
And, does that mean they're going to have the first pick? I mean, I hope not. I hope we're not in a situation where, they're challenging to be Owens. No, we don't. Nobody wants any of that. I mean, and you want to see something that makes you think that, okay, these guys get it. But talent-wise, it's just, how are you bridging the gap between what's here now and what you could be in 3 years?
Absolutely.
Or even 2 years. I mean, there's a reasonable thought process that you can get rid of Goff. You can move on from Goff after one season. That's why the Trey Lance stuff or the Field stuff is so intriguing.
We are old enough, and we were talking about this on the Daily Show, Baligian and Bell. We are old enough to remember the Herschel Walker trade that has now been universally regarded as, and 30 for 30 had a special on it, the great train robbery, okay? When that deal was made, people thought that Jimmy Johnson was the biggest moron on earth, okay? And if you're not familiar with this, I mean, this trade was unbelievable. And basically the Cowboys got an unbelievable cornerback out of it. Russell Maryland, a guy by the name of Darren Woodson who went to the Hall of Fame, a guy by the name of Emmitt Smith, maybe you heard of him, went to the Hall of Fame. They made this incredible deal, and they gave up, literally at the time, their only asset, Herschel Walker. So to put this in perspective, even with that incredible deal and all the moving pieces and what it eventually turned out to be, the Cowboys went 1-15. The Cowboys went 7-9. The Cowboys went 11-5 and got trounced by the Detroit Lions in the playoffs. 4 years later, they won a Super Bowl. You know what I mean?
It takes time.
It's going to take time when you take this route. And by the way, that's with a package that was that incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, that goes to show you. So, and you know what, Scott? If you're going to do it right, and the heavy lifting is getting the picks right, obviously, I'm all for it. Because I know the way that the Lions have operated in my lifetime hasn't worked. And I can guarantee you it hasn't worked in your lifetime either. It just hasn't.
It's
so
true. And
let's go.
Fixing the quarterback position and fixing it long term is literally the lifeblood for them going forward. If they can't do this going forward, they will eventually not be employed by the Lions.
Nope.
Just how it works in the NFL. So the more opportunity you have to find future franchise quarterback, you need to take advantage of that. If that's at 7 this year and it's Justin Fields and they make the decision that they think Justin Fields can be their guy, get behind it because it's one extra opportunity to find that guy.
You just said something. I talk about this every stinking year, okay? And by the way, we have about 7 minutes left just to give you a heads up. I don't care what you think about Justin Fields. Seriously, I don't care. I don't care what I think about Justin Fields. I don't care what this guy. Here's the thing. Do you trust your general manager? Right? Do you trust if he and his scouting staff looked at Trey Lance or Justin Fields and said, regardless of the noise that's out there, we've looked at this guy. We love this guy. that's who they're going to pick.
Yes.
Period. End of story. No, regardless of what your personal feelings are. And I hear this so many times. People like, I can't stand that guy. Well, you've told me all along you like this guy, and you've looked at his track record and everything. Are you willing to take a leap of faith if, as you said, Justin Fields, Trey Lance, whatever? That scenario is very possible to happen at draft time.
It is.
It just is.
Then the smart work is going about building the pieces around
Absolutely.
him to make him the best player possible.
Absolutely.
Not ignoring some of the things that he doesn't do well, right? It's, okay, these are the things he does do well. Let's let him do those things. Let's build around that.
Yep.
And it's not just a Detroit thing. It's kind of, it permeates the NFL. It's we ignore the things that he did well in college because we just think that we can coach him up and do whatever, right? The smart thing is to take quarterback, build around the strengths of that player, and then use the picks that you have going forward to build. And if they can do that, and if they're smart enough, and I really think that there's something to how many ex-players are on this staff, and them understanding that I was a player. I know what it was like to be a player, and I know what it was like when a coach asked me to do something I couldn't do and didn't want to do because I didn't do it well. And trust me, nobody wants to go out on the NFL field and do something they just know they're not capable of doing. No player wants to do that. I hope that this group is smart enough to understand we need to put these guys in a position to be successful. That will be the most important thing going forward.
In the remaining few minutes, I want to talk to you about something that has been thrown around all the time. And you hear people say this all the time. Scott Bischoff has it. Sean Baligian does not have it. Well, how do you define it? Okay? And I'm going to try. This is my crack at it. And I'm going to use two quarterbacks here for the Detroit Lions. Many of you probably know this. I know you did. Joey Harrington, from day one for me, he didn't have it.
Yeah.
He didn't. And anybody that listened to me knows that. I mean, years and years ago on the radio, I was very vocal about my dislike as a player for John Joseph Harrington. And he didn't have it, right? John Joseph Harrington did not have it. Matthew Stafford had it. Well, what is it? How can you define it? This is my attempt at defining it, and you yell at me. A swagger, a confidence, the way he carries himself. That's what I'm talking about, okay? The ability to, okay, I made a bad throw. I'm not going to hang my head. I'm going to go out there and beat you the next time. That's how I define it. Confidence, is that something you can see, like when you're watching tape, when you're breaking down tape or anything? Can you see that? Because, I mean, that's my personal, everybody will define it any way they want. That's my personal definition of it.
No, and I think that's a really good definition just because it's such an undefinable thing. Mm-hmm. You know it when you see it.
That's the best. That's even better.
No, I don't.
Yeah, you do.
It's a swagger.
Guys, I'm telling you, Joey Harrington didn't have it. I didn't need 3 years. I did not need 3 years.
So if you were feeling that, you knew that his teammates were feeling that, and they were not going to get behind him.
Boy, were they ever.
It was a bit of a fraud, would you say?
Boy, were they ever.
So that's where watching film, you can see you can see a player's confidence on film.
Okay.
You can. You can see a player get rolling in an offense and just make throw after throw after throw. His teammates get excited for him. He's excited for his teammates. You can see it. And there are quarterbacks in this class that have it.
Are there guys, conversely, that you're worried about not having it? You don't have to say their names if you don't want to.
I don't know that. Yeah, I mean, there are some that
don't say their name.
I'm not going to because I'm not sure that because it's an undefinable thing that I would know anyway. Mm-hmm. It's more of a personal preference.
Sure.
For a person like me, where it doesn't hold any value for me to say player X doesn't have it. Well, how do I even know?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
On film, there are players who play with more confidence than others.
I'm a big fan of when you go out, like, for example, camp, and you and I have been at camp together. Like, you watch a guy. I used to say this all the time. I want you guys, I wish you could see what I could see with Matthew Stafford. right? Back when people were kind of debating what he was.
Yeah.
And I understood it. I would say it all the time. I would say, I get it. He's got to stay on the field. I get it. He's looked like a young player, blah, 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 blah. He makes throws that you're just like, there's something wrong with you. Like somebody's bionic arm or some crap, right?
Incredible to watch. Yes.
It's crazy
They
stuff.
bring in a good quarterback with good arm strength, and Matt Stafford would make him look like, my 8-year-old in the yard.
Yes.
Trying to throw a big football. He just did.
Yep.
He did. There's also something to be said about like a player whose quiet confidence sort of exudes good things for an offense too. And so that's where a player like Trevor Lawrence, where his team's with him. I don't see him having as much fun on the field as I do another quarterback in this class. You know who that is. But that he's a confident player.
Sure,
and
absolutely.
that his team loves him and they're behind him and all that stuff. So there's something to be said for a guy who doesn't bring as much swagger to the table when maybe that's a little bit manufactured to begin with. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So you don't want the manufactured stuff. You want the real thing.
All right. I'm going to use a hockey term. Last minute of play in this podcast. Anything else you want to quick hit finish on the things you're looking at?
Not right now. I think we're going to see some moves and some structuring of contracts and some cutting of players.
A lot of it
to free up some things.
A lot of it.
The Galladay decision is going to drive a lot of what happens. I don't know what to anticipate there. Don't think he's a great fit for where this franchise is and for what their current quarterback is, but very talented receiver that it would be tough just to wave him goodbye. But
All right, before we get out of here, I also have to say we're really happy he's going to be providing some content online for us as well, doing some articles, some positional breakdowns. His favorite thing, mock drafts.
Oh, yeah. Great.
Have I ever told you I'm a mockaholic?
You have
Have I told you that?
Yeah,
Can
right
you
after
do
we
me-
talked about Jalen Hurts and the mock drafts.
I do love Jalen Hurts.
517 times.
I do love Jalen Hurts.
518.
So listen, can you do me a favor though before you can you send it to me so
Yeah.
I can read it first?
You can be yes.
Patient zero.
You can be, I was going to say that, but no, yeah, you can be the
zero.
first person to be offended and yell at me.
All
That's
right.
cool.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us. He's Scott Bischoff. I'm Sean Baligian. Until next week. Later.